Jenny said, OMG, oh my goodness. Did I catch a live before it started? Yes. The bigger, the bigger issue here, or I guess the bigger non-complaint here is, did I start a live on time? Did I show up for my own live? You guys know I had a live scheduled the other day. And I'm so sorry, you guys. So much has happened. First of all, before we get into the live, let me just update you on how so much has happened. So first of all, shout out to the Zyx Institute. Shout out to Q Better and the Zyx Institute and all of my students and any of the parents that are watching. There's that whole thing. But I've sort of accelerated my curriculum. I low-key am announcing this to you guys first. I brought this up because Mr. recommended me to. So there is basically a festival that goes on annually in our area for people of Afro descent. And Mr. recommended me to the woman who puts this festival on to consult because consulting, okay, so these are things you guys, some of you know, those of you who have been around for, a few years know this about me. Other people don't know this about me. But you guys know that there are things that I've done. I've been a homemaker all of my adult life. So let's just throw that on the table. But as a homemaker, there's still things that I would do because I'm educated to earn money. They're just not things that I did for my survival, right? Obviously. So with that said, one of the things that I do is consulting and branding, and marketing and things like that. So you guys know that I managed many commercial real estate developer portfolios. That was like my main thing. But like in that, I also did branding and consulting and marketing and all of those things, right? So Mr. recommended me to the woman that puts on, it's a Black woman, obviously, that puts on this festival. And just to kind of expand it and build it. And I was planning my whole summer after my volunteer work with the Zyx Institute was done. I was planning just to vibe out this summer. Like honestly, I was looking forward to spending every single day of the summer biking and hiking and having picnics. Like if you guys are over on my vlog channel, you know how I do. Like those 10, 15-mile epic bike rides to the lake where we picnic for hours and then bike back. And that was going to be my whole summer. Somehow I have ended up fundraising, organizing, and doing branding for this festival for our people, which does not actually happen until, get this, the day before my birthday. Like the actual festival is the day before my birthday. Also, well, I'm not going to get into the also part, but nevertheless, I was having meetings with her and we were really kind of hashing out, you know, is she willing to pay my fees? Can we meet on the vision? Like for me, as somebody that's being paid, I need the festival to make money. But at the same time, she does not want a bunch of white people there. She wants the majority of people to show up to be Black. You know how Black events get. You get white people that just show up, which is no problem. We have white people in our families. Many people of Afro descent are mixed. Like there's reasons that white people would show up. But when you throw something for Black people, you want to see, right, 80% Black faces at least. So that's why the other live didn't happen, just to throw that out there. It's just, I wanted to we needed to negotiate, we needed to get our contract together, and we needed to come to like a starting place for how we're moving forward, me working with her team, what she wanted and all that. So I apologize that the last live did not happen. It is happening. I rescheduled it for this Friday, but this is a live I wanted to have because you guys know we're due for a mixtape. Like the next Black conservative mixtape is going to be epic. If some of you are like, what the heck are you talking about, Irene? What's the Black conservative mixtape? It's a mixtape, like think music when you get back in the day when you used to get a mixtape, but it's with political issues. And I tend to air them live, but they are members and Patreon only. But for a fact, we will be doing the Black Conservative mixtape this upcoming week, and we have so many topics. But there were some things, you guys, I could not sit on because I know that they're controversial, but I just feel so strongly about them. Also, you guys know that I do the mixtape with Mister, and some of these things, like this first one I'm about to start off with, which is about the baby formula. I feel like a lot of men, there's some things men cannot speak on because even the most conservative of women deep down may have a hard time hearing the male perspective. But as a woman, I'm going to say whatever I want to say, right? So, with that said, I am going to allow people to come up. I am going to allow people to come up, but I have a few topics that could be triggering. Most likely will be triggering. We've all met me. We know that I'm not politically correct, but that I feel strongly about. Now, again, only the people who have been here for many years will know that one of the first videos I did on this channel was a commentary about a young woman who I felt was very selfish because she had a lot of animosity toward breastfeeding, and she was having a really negative experience because she felt like she was constantly attached to her baby, which is, for the record, exactly what breastfeeding is like. As a woman who has breastfed and nourished her children, I can tell you that when you're breastfeeding properly, it's not like bottle feeding. It's a lot of cluster feeding. It's a lot of just kind of sticking your boob, in the baby's mouth pretty much all day, every day. And that takes a lot of selflessness that many women these days do have, but they're taught they don't need to have. So, I have some topics for this, but my first topic, and probably the one I feel most passionately about, is the formula shortage. Okay, don't get mad at me. If I say that I'm not really feeling the level of sympathy that the media wants me to feel about this formula shortage, is everybody going to hate me because I'm not feeling sympathy. Um it seems ridiculous to me that as women, we've reached a point where if factories don't make formula for our babies, there's like some kind of crisis going on. I mean, that's just ridiculous, especially considering women ready made to feed a baby. Now, I know people are always going to there's literally about 1% of women who are incapable, simply can't create milk to feed their babies. All right. It's stressful for me. I don't like it. The baby's not latching on right. Like women who are truly incapable of nursing their children. It's like 1% of women. For that 1% of women, I have sympathy for them. But I will say this, the 1% of women who truly can't breastfeed would be able to get formula if the 99% of women who are capable of breastfeeding simply breastfed their babies. Then we wouldn't have to worry about a formula shortage. Then the women who truly cannot breastfeed could do that. And that comes into like whole conversations about how in this current climate where we try to pretend men and women are the same, this is why I say I am more an advocate for women than a feminist is. Because if a woman gives birth to a child, I don't think she should have to work for the first 1 to 3 years because, your child can breastfeed for 1 to 3 years and you need to be there for your baby. So I understand that there's other things like fiscally and things that are involved that are very anti-woman that make it so that women can't be stay-at-home mothers so that they can do the things that really we're designed, whether I know it's triggering sometimes. Women are designed to breastfeed. They're designed to breastfeed for the first 1 to 3 years. And society is not set up so that women, after they give birth, can simply be at home doing the very thing that their bodies are created to do, right? I understand that. However, I do feel like the whole formula shortage thing is only a big deal because women overarchingly don't want to breastfeed. They just don't want to. I understand women who don't want to pump. I tried pumping once, and pumping never is something that got on with me because, first of all, it hurts. But I'm just saying the formula shortage would hit different if women were breastfeeding their babies. So I'm not feeling the level of sympathy because it's so commonplace for women to simply not I mean, women have gotten to the point where they don't even want to give vaginal birth. You know what I mean? You have women out here just scheduling cesareans just because they don't want to mess up their cooch, you know? So like women are like a whole different, we're trying to avoid all the stuff of womanhood. I I stand by, I think some of the people that hate womanhood the most are women. Nobody dislikes womanhood as much as a whole woman. Women hate being women. This is crazy. Right, exactly, China King. Like we don't just have breasts so we can throw them in a push-up bra. And y'all know, I love my breasts. Okay. You guys have seen my cleavage on this channel more times than I'm sure any of us want to count. I love my breasts. I have there are human beings walking around. I have a human being walking around that speaks 5 languages who survived off of the milk from these breasts. And I am personally in love with my own breasts, right? But I know that breasts are very controversial. Heck, there was a period of time on YouTube when I first came on that my breasts were very controversial. Even though I personally, although I can understand why people are extremely attracted to breasts, I don't think that breasts are sexual in and of themselves. I think they're a sign of womanhood. I think they're beautiful, you know more than anything. I think they're useful, and I understand why everybody, men and women alike, love the appearance of them. But they're utilitarian. Like breasts are utilitarian. They're not there for, I mean, they can give pleasure, but that's not what they're there for. they're they have a purpose. So when I heard about the formula shortage, I'm just like, imagine a world where 99% of women don't need formula, where it's a crisis that we don't have formula. Just riddle me that. You know what I mean? I'm trying to understand. Like, make that make sense. You don't even need formula as a woman, but if the formula shortage is like a crisis and babies are going to starve because they can't get formula, like as women, we have to really step back and ask ourselves, how? How, Sway? Who's Sway? You guys, you know that saying, how, Sway? Who is Sway? I don't know who Sway is, but I think that saying is really cute. Hello, what are your thoughts on this?
Hello, Irene. It's so nice to see you again.
Oh, wait, don't tell me yet because I can't hear you. Let me turn my volume up. Okay, say something now.
Hello.
Okay, there we go. Hey, what's up?
Hi. I I like your perspective on how there's an agenda behind this because you have people pushing this whole idea of saying birthing person or breast or like chest feeding person. And I'm glad that you mentioned the agenda behind it. However, women who can't produce milk or can only produce a certain amount of breast milk for a certain period of time is a real thing. And for some women, they can only breastfeed from up to a year. And then after that first year, they have to implement formula. Either,
But wait,
yes.
let's start with that point
Okay.
first. So after a year, like around 10 months, your baby can eat. And I say this as a woman who's breastfed for only 10 months. And then right before one of my girls, I won't tell you which one, third birthday, I had to sit her down and be like, look, you're going to be 3. So no more mommy milk, And then she, like, on her third birthday was like, she was like, okay. And then it was perfectly fine. So as a woman that's breastfed from 10 months to, and I'm much older than a lot of you ladies. I've breastfed from, 10 months to right before, literally the day before one of my kids' third birthday, right? So after a year, the baby doesn't need breast milk. It's really just a matter of comfort at that point. It's just a matter of like their mental growth at that point. And although I agree with you, and that's why I gave that caveat that there are women who are incapable of breastfeeding, right? It's a tiny, tiny percentage of women. So technically, if everybody else was breastfeeding, then there could not be a formula shortage because all of the formula would be reserved for those women who either don't want to use the breast milk of another woman because we can breastfeed other people's babies, right? Or give our milk to other women. Many women choose to do that. Or it would, but that formula would be reserved simply for that 1%, 3%. I've heard some estimates go as high as 3%, but I think 1% is more accurate, but 3% for the sake of argument, right? Those women would have the formula they needed if the other 99 to 97% of women simply breastfed, right?
Well, yes, but I think you're a little bit more like educated than I am, so I will give you your props. However, I think maybe you're overestimating the amount of women who can really breastfeed children constantly up to a year, because there are a lot of women who can't even do up to a year.
So then why? That becomes the question.
That's a good question.
Why can't, so I for me I would say a lot of times it's because, women, we have to work, right? This is why I say, ladies, no vag until marriage, right? Because when your income is required for you to exist, for you to be fed and housed and things like that, then I do agree. You guys know, I talked to a woman who worked with a social services agency, and while she was helping impoverished women, she was going into a bathroom to pump her milk. And I was outraged by that. I was disgusted. I'm just like, really, this is where society is, right? She's not only working, but she's in a bathroom stall on a toilet where you pee and defecate, pumping her milk. So I think that there's room there to say that because women have been sold this idea and we've embraced this idea that number one, traditional families are bad and we don't hold men to the standard of access to our body, which can create children, requires a traditional family structure. And because we've been told being barefoot and pregnant is like, diminishes us, we're now in a position where we give birth to children and then we have to go to work, which prevents us, it makes us that, like the lady I'm talking about, like we're professional women in a career suit on a toilet trying to pump our milk because our babies are with a daycare provider because we've just, we've aided and abetted this system and convincing us that, simply doing the very thing that our bodies are meant to do is problematic. So I think some women can't because of income reasons and work reasons,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, and I
What-
and I agree with you. For me, in my personal opinion, when I do get married and have a child, a minimum of 3 years will be me at home taking care of the child. 3 years, which means what I would have to quit my job. And some people, not only do they not want to do that because they're so focused on their careers, some of them can't do that.
And then that's why I said that's why we have to bring up like the can'ts, right? The
Mhm.
can'ts. So first, I want to address also what Cookbook Rook said. External components, working outside the house, which is a valid argument, but you guys know that I promote stay-at-home motherhood. Like if you're going to be a mother, you should be a stay-at-home mother because your womanhood almost dictates that for you to be optimal and for your children, and I know this is controversial because this is exactly the opposite of what everybody says. For you to be optimal as a woman and a mother, at least in those first few years, you should be a stay at home mother. Number one, your body is designed to be with your child. That's how our bodies are designed, right? We start creating milk immediately. That child needs to nurse almost continuously. That first year is shutdown mode. If we are going with biology, and how women are designed. So being a stay-at-home mother is extremely logical. But this is only logical if you're only giving your body to men who are on board with that. This is only logical if your livelihood doesn't depend on you showing up for work, on you having to work against your own biology for survival, right? And I think a lot of women are in that position. So I agree with that. Now, as far as, if you're taking care of elderly people or if you have children with extracurricular activities, I mean, you can breastfeed anywhere. That's the beauty of breastfeeding, right? It's like your boob goes with you. your breasts, your breasts go with you where you go. So I am a witness. I've breastfed cooking, cleaning. I've breastfed at stores. I've breastfed on BART. I've breastfed everywhere because the boob is there. The
Wait,
baby's there and there's no conflict. So I do agree with the working. I disagree with all the other stuff. Like you can breastfeed in any circumstance, which is one of the reasons, you guys, I said women should be able to bring their babies to work if they have to work. But go ahead.
okay, I have two things. I know this has been really
No,
long, but I
no,
have two
go ahead,
things.
go ahead.
So the first thing is, oh my gosh, I forgot it. Okay. Well, what would you do? What would you say to the women who are working and can't be stay-at-home moms?
Well, I would say this. This is really hard. Hold on. First of all, before I answer that question, let me put the link in the chat and then I'm going to pin it. Hold on. Um, I'll say this. The first thing that I would say is that let's be preventative, first of all. Before we talk about the women who have kids, let's talk about the women who don't have kids. Um, Set yourself up so that your lifestyle does not work against your biology, right? Be with a man who equally respects the differences between men and women and recognize that there is a cost to you emotionally and physically and a cost to your child, right? When we choose to ignore the fact that we are not like men and we can't live exactly the same lives that men do, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing superior about how men live their lives. And I think that is an argument I really want to throw out there. A lot of times we talk about, well, men can do it as if something about manhood is superior to womanhood. Therefore, if we can't behave and move exactly like they move, we are deprived because the nature of womanhood is inferior. We have to get rid of our own inferiority complex about womanhood, right? The fact that they're concerned a bunch of children are going to starve to death proves that there's nothing inferior about womanhood, right? Because if women were operating their womanhood, nobody would have to fear their kids starving to death. Now, with that said, if you're in that position already, it's one of those scenarios like I mean, you can't cry over spilled milk, right? If you're actively in that situation, then there's only so much you can do to work to change that. So, you know, I would say the best thing people that are in that situation can do if you can't actively change your situation is be honest about the difficulty of it, right? It would be great for women who don't have good access to formula right now to be honest and say, if I were breastfeeding, I wouldn't have to worry about where I'm getting my formula from, right? It would be better for women who are in that situation to be honest with women who aren't in that situation yet and say, you know what, when I'm working, I do wish I would rather be home with my baby. You know, I think the biggest thing for women who can't currently change their situation is to stop pretending like we're so content with the status quo and let the younger women who haven't made those mistakes know that this is really not a vibe. I would have totally loved, to be able to cuddle and be near and nurse and be with my baby all day versus sitting here serving you your coffee or versus being here with you sitting in this office. I personally never met a woman who's a working, because as a homemaker, I'm out with my kids, and I'll meet women, especially when I had babies. They'd be like, "Oh, I just had a baby. My baby's 10 months, or 15 months, or whatever." And the first thing I always ask is, "How do you feel being separated from your baby?" And every single woman without fail says it's really hard. I've not one time in my long life had a woman tell me, "Oh, I'm cool with it. It's not a problem." I feel no way. Every single woman has said that it's hard. Every single woman gave me the clear impression that she would rather be at home. But you know what? I got to put food on the table. So I think if more women were honest about that, instead of trying to make believe and pretend that, for the majority, I'm not saying there's not women out there because nothing's true 100% of the time, but for the majority of us, it's not a vibe. For the majority of us, if we had the choice, if all of our needs could be met, we'd be at home. And a lot of these women, now that their milk is dried up and they can't breastfeed their babies, I'm sure that they wish that they had some milk to give their babies and they weren't struggling to find a can of formula. Reality, when denying your own womanhood backfires.
You're so right. Oh, yes. Okay. And one more question, and then I'll get off. But this is really a great conversation, very insightful. Has anyone ever judged you for breastfeeding in public? And what do you think of women who oftentimes sexualize breastfeeding during on social media?
Yeah, I think those are really good questions. So I've actually never been shamed for breastfeeding in public. What I have had is women who feel really strongly about breastfeeding be upset that I cover myself. So when I would breastfeed, I don't have any children that are breastfeeding at this age. But when I would breastfeed, I had a few women come up to me and say, why are you covering? Like the baby can't breathe. Like, just uncover yourself. And they just wanted me to be, boob out in the kid's mouth in public. Me personally, I would always use a receiving blanket to cover, my chest when I breastfed. Um, because people are perverted and breasts have been sexualized so much that even though it's perfectly natural, there's always some pervert out there that's going to see you breastfeeding and find some twisted way to think that that's sexual. So I've never been shamed for breastfeeding. That's never happened, but I have had women not shame me, but criticize the fact that I cover myself when I breastfeed. Keep in mind, though, you guys, I'm from California. I'm from San Francisco. So, people are very different out there. Um, as I have seen women doing things that I think are very vile. I remember years ago, did you guys see this cover where there was a woman and like her 5-year-old or whatever, 4-year-old, however big he was like standing and she was standing and they put the kid on a chair and he's like fully, like a whole little kid. And he's like, breastfeeding off of her boob, and that was like the cover of the magazine. Does anybody else remember that, or is it just me? I think that's very inappropriate. I think breastfeeding is natural and it's normal. But I think about mukbangs. So many of you love mukbangs, right? I personally get repulsed at watching people shovel food in their faces. Eating is a normal thing, but think about it. When you're at a restaurant, are you really sitting there like staring into somebody's face while they're eating at the table with you? Are you making a spectacle? Like, are they putting on a show for you to watch while they have a meal? And I think children nursing is very similar. I don't think women need to make statements, me personally, about breastfeeding. I think taking a beautiful picture of you breastfeeding and having that somewhere maybe in your private office in your home is beautiful. I think little kids, like when I'm at home, all of my children have seen me breastfeed except for the youngest, right? Because he was the one being breastfed. Um, I think that that's a beautiful and natural and normal that they should see and understand. But I don't think women need to make a spectacle of ourselves where we need to prove. I mean, everybody knows why we have boobs. This is not a secret, right? So I think it can become perverse. And you guys know the lines with me when it comes to kids are super strict. I think doing something that could be perverse when a child is involved is disgusting. This is right up there with me, and don't get mad at me, some of you super, super liberal people. It's right up there with me when women try to talk about having orgasms during childbirth. As a woman who's given natural childbirth more than once, um, I'm disgusted. Even if you could have an orgasm during childbirth, that's not what it's for. Childbirth is not for your sexual pleasure. So you know, sexualizing breastfeeding is right up there with me with women who want to make it like, achieving an orgasm during childbirth is something that could happen. It's like you're the type of chick. who would who rape, you're like the chick that helped little Bootsy rape those little boys. He had a whole woman come in to rape those children on his behalf. And they give me those vibes. They give me like that chick where if you she would, if a man had a nasty inclination, there are those women out there who will like aid and abet a pervert. That's giving me aiding and abetting vibes. So I personally am not with it, even though I fully support breastfeeding. I fully support that it's natural. I think this current formula crisis proves it. Um, I fully support women embracing their bodies, and that's what we are designed to do. We're not men. We aren't designed to give birth and then 6 weeks later go back to work. Like we're literally that's the opposite of what we should be doing. But I think the sexualization of it is perverse and disgusting. And like I said in my video, motherhood does not equal goodness. Popping a child out of your vag does not make you a fabulous person. It's your behavior that makes you an amazing mother. It's not simply giving birth, right? Because we know that there are whole drug addicts who sell their children, into prostitution on the street who've given birth. But that doesn't mean they're good mothers. So there's like a fine line between being a woman and being a good mother. Those two things are not. They are mutually exclusive.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
No, thank you for coming up.
Yes.
I literally, y'all, but that was the first thing. So I guess that was the first thing and probably the most controversial thing is I really don't care about the formula shortage. I feel like if women were I feel and I think that if they really like themselves as women, a formula shortage, if they like themselves as women and if feminism, for all feminism's claims, if feminism was even remotely doing anything that was actually woman centered, women would not be in a position where a formula shortage would matter to us. It wouldn't matter. It would be irrelevant because we wouldn't be using formula, the majority of us. Ergo, there could not be a formula shortage. Um, what is the second thing? The second thing that I wanted to talk about, maybe I think most of us will be more in agreement with. Most of us will be more in agreement with. Oh, let's talk about that. Mika said, I don't know how, but my friend's boobs went back to being perky, but she already had a perky breast and was 36 when she had her first child. Yeah. I feel like a lot of the things with women nowadays surrounding like childbirth and breastfeeding are about vanity, right? They're about vanity. Now, I do blame men for part of this. Men, take your responsibility because men don't respect the changes that happen in a woman's body after she's given birth. So many men don't find that attractive, right? Um, it's promoted to not find that attractive. Then a lot of women are starting to despise how their bodies change because regardless of what women say that they don't care what men think, women do care what men think if you're heterosexual. So that's making women not want to give birth to their own children. That's making women not want to breastfeed because they're more concerned with how is my body going to change and how is my husband or a man going to view my body than they are doing what's best for their health and what's best for their babies. There is a whole, and we cannot pretend there's not, crop of women who are so vain that they barely want to even carry their own child. They don't want to mess up their vagina. They don't want to mess up their breasts. They don't want to mess up their bodies. And literally everything surrounding motherhood to them is centered around maintaining attractiveness, which is crazy to me. Number one, because you can be and are attractive after you give birth to children. But more importantly, everybody's going to age out. All of us, men and women, right? Everybody ages. I'm going to tell you something. Aging is something nobody will avoid. As good as I look today, I will not always look like this, and I certainly don't look the way I did when I was 20. So it's ridiculous to obsess over it. It's more It's more appropriate to simply age gracefully and embrace your womanhood. We should start to look, and I don't mean letting yourself go, because there's a difference between having kids and letting yourself go, and having kids and having natural things happen to you. But yeah, for a fact, the boob sagging, the idea that your vagina changes, which unless you rip up crazily, your vagina is not going to change. Giving birth it doesn't do that. Vaginas are very resilient. That's a myth. But yeah, I think vanity is like the new problem with women because we are so, now don't get me wrong, beauty is important. Beauty is currency if you're a woman. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that it doesn't matter because it matters a lot. However, to be so vain that you can't even actually engage in your own womanhood, that you start to despise your own womanhood, that is a problem. Like there's a balance. There's a balance. There really is. And if you have more to you than your physical appearance, then you're actually more valuable as a woman. So you want to be as attractive as you possibly can, but there need to be layers to who you are as a person. All your value cannot be that you're attractive. It can't all be there. That's not the end all be all to things. Right. Exactly, Mika. The vagina it doesn't stretch out. I know men make jokes. It doesn't work. The vaginas don't work that way, y'all. They don't. They don't work that way. Um, After a period of time, they just go back to their regular size unless some serious damage was done. That's not how the vagina works. So anyway, what is my next topic? My next topic is about this monkeypox thing. So the monkeypox, can I show a picture of this? Let me try to find a picture of monkeypox. I actually, first of all, I'm irritated at the name. You cannot tell me, you cannot convince me. This actually gives me the heebie-jeebies. Oh, this is grossing me out. It's grossing me out. Oh, I can't. Can I open this? Hold on. Hold on. I'm about to try to show you guys the picture. Mm, you can't tell me that the whole monkeypox thing is not racist. Just the name of it, not the disease. Diseases can't be racist. But I I'm very irritated that the whole monkeypox thing is a thing. Let me see if I can't. Hold on. I can't do anything. Let me try this a different way. Um, oh, hold on. I got to figure out how to show the picture with you. But you guys have seen the pictures. Monkeypox isn't even from monkeys. So let's start there. Monkeypox is spread predominantly by rodents. Rodents, mice, rodents. So if monkeypox is spread by rodents and not monkeys, I just have one question. Why are they calling it monkeypox? If monkeypox is spread predominantly by rodents and monkeys is not they're not the animals that are giving this thing out. Why are they calling it monkeypox? I just don't understand that. Wait, y'all are still on the other topic. Modern day cynics said, do most Black women, even in marriage, have enough financial, emotional support for this to be a reality? Yes. I feel like the entire culture would need to change. Yes. So first of all, you can have very little money and that be a reality. That is yes. But with that said, the culture does need to change, modern day cynic. I would say yes to both the things you said. But yeah, for the monkeypox thing, I think they're calling it monkeypox. Yeah, exactly. I think science is racist. Not science, but the scientists are racist because there's no monkeys involved in this pox. So who's the monkey? You know what I'm saying? That's all I want to know. Who is the monkey? There's only so many monkeys because monkeys don't pass this disease on. Monkeys aren't the ones that pass this disease on. So when we're talking about monkeypox, it's making me feel like you're talking about us. It makes me feel like this is a shot. Somebody's taking a shot at Black people because we know the comparisons that come with the idea of monkeys and Black people. Oh, you've never heard of it? Girl, I hadn't either. I had to read up on it. Yeah, most of the cases, can we talk about that? Most of the cases globally that they're finding are not on Black people, but it's from West Africa where the slaves came from, and they're calling it monkeypox. They're calling it monkeypox. So I feel like that is extremely racist. Not the disease, but the name. Because it doesn't come from monkeys. There are no monkeys involved. So why are we calling it monkeypox? It's giving me monkey is a covert meaning for Black. And I'm really not feeling that very much. I'm not liking that at all. Okay. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Tiff, it was back in the 80s that they first brought the whole monkeypox conversation out. It was back in the 80s. Am I the only one that has some? Because I've talked about breastfeeding and I'm giving you my opinion on the monkeypox thing. But do any of you guys have any beliefs or thoughts that you think are highly controversial? Is it just me? I feel like I'm always extremely controversial. All right, I'm going to go to the next one I think is extremely controversial. All right, don't crucify me. I don't think I don't think that the most pro-Black thing you can do is reproduce with a Black person. Ah, that's my third one, you guys. So first was the breastfeeding thing, second was the monkeypox thing. I don't think that the most pro-Black thing you can do is reproduce with a Black person. I just don't. If it was the most pro-Black thing you could do, then the Black community would be in an amazing condition because most Black people reproduce with other Black people. I don't think it's the most pro-Black thing you can do. In fact, I'm gonna tell you guys something. You know, at the beginning of this live, how I was telling you about the festival that I'm consulting on. It's the only festival of its kind in this state where she's throwing the festival. It's the only one of its kind. And her husband is white. Her husband's white, and her daughter is mixed. But she's the only person in her whole state that thought to put on a festival just for Black people. I'm sure I could name several historical figures who are either mixed or interracially dating. I just don't think that. Now, don't get me wrong. We have to create other Black people. I think obviously there can't be a promotion of Blackness without Black people. I'm just thinking, I'm just saying that when people take it and act like there is, there are definitely people out here who are not doing anything at all for the Black community and feel no loyalty whatsoever to the Black community. Candace Owens is an excellent example. Candace Owens has no loyalty to the Black community whatsoever. And that woman is beautiful and as blackety black as you can get. I mean, Candace Owens strikes me as she might be 98% black. And the two black people that produced her, what have they truly done for the black community? That is the question that we need to ask, right? Let her tell it. And I've talked about this. You remember, guys, when I did the analyzation of when she went to Europe and she basically drug her own mother for filth? I just don't know. Anthony Brian Logan is another one. I absolutely I'm subscribed to his channel. Anthony is very nice. Like when I've talked to him off of YouTube, just had conversations with him, he's extremely nice. But he's not the most pro-black person ever. I mean, he literally kind of low-key drug Harriet Tubman. And he said that his grandmother told him that the KKK were good people. So although I like Anthony Brian Logan and I agree with a lot of what he says, I wouldn't say, even though he has a black wife, which means that if he has kids, those kids are going to be black. And he clearly, this man has two black parents. I wouldn't say that he's the most pro-black person ever. And so I don't think, I think we can think of a lot of black people who kill other black people, sell drugs to other black people, who have black kids and have two black parents, and they're not pro-black. So I just don't think simply having sex with other black people and giving birth to black children is the most pro-black thing you can do. I just don't understand that argument. I don't understand the logic. I mean, I understand why people are saying it, but I think it's dangerous to say that because you have people who do more for the black community who don't have a black spouse or who don't have two black parents. And then you have people, it's black, black, black all the time. They only have sex with black people. Their kids are black and they do nothing for the community. They do not a thing, not a single solitary thing. Are we actually, they may even do things to harm the black community. Are we actually going to claim that they're more pro-black simply because of who they had sex with? The guy that reproduces and has sex with 13 women and makes 6 babies, is that guy more pro-black? Right? But he doesn't take care of any of his kids. Is he super pro-black? Like I just don't I think I disagree with that. I just don't think it's the most pro-black. I think the most pro-black thing you can do for the black community is actually help the black community. Do work in the community. I think if you're actually doing something, not having sex with people, but doing something that benefits the black community, then you, by your behavior and your actions, are pro-black. I don't think simply liking to have sex and make babies with black people is enough to make somebody pro-black. I just think that that's ridiculous. This is my opinion. Right. Do something. Do something. Anything at all. I just think if you're not putting in work, it's not pro-black. I don't think having sex with somebody is enough for it to be pro-black. I'm not saying I'm anti-black love. I'm not anti-black love. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying to take simply marrying or having sex with black people or making kids with black people and make believing like that suddenly improves the community is like, no, that doesn't in and of itself improve anything. It makes more black people, but it doesn't better the community. Simply giving birth to children doesn't make the community better. That's not how this thing works. That doesn't make sense. Zara said the pro-Black movement is too invested in correcting Black women. I don't know. But I do think that there's room for correction on all sides. Maybe that's my next unpopular opinion. I think that there's room for correction on all sides. Zara, this is not to what you said. This is just in general. There's room for correction on all sides. I think when any party tries to act like they don't have anything to correct, they're being a liar. Ooh, this is something I was talking to Mister, and he did not like this. But I truly believe this. Oh, I'm going to say this, you guys. I'm going to say it. Don't get upset with me. I'm going to say it though. I think most Black people, okay, I'm going to say it. I don't know if you guys are ready for this. I think most Black people operate in a level of degeneracy. Black people. So I was having this conversation with Mister, and I was saying, now it's not because they're Black. Let me say this. It's because they're poor. There are certain things that come with poverty. This does not mean that everybody poor engages in these behaviors, but there are certain behaviors that come with poverty. And because most Black people are poor, these behaviors are very prevalent in the Black community. And I think it's something we don't talk about because for some people, if you criticize aspects of the Black community, they feel very protective. They want to make excuses. The lack of accountability is strong within us. The lack of accountability is strong within us. And I know that that's an unpopular opinion, but and I've talked about this on this channel before. Sometimes we get together as educated Black people, as moneyed Black people, or if you're not necessarily educated and you don't necessarily have money, you are a deeper thinker, right? You're more analytical, you're more pragmatic. And we come into these spaces and we have conversations about the Black community as if we are representative of 90% of Black people. I dare say conversations of this nature are representative of 5 to 10% of the Black community. And that many times when we have these conversations, it is not reflective of the dialogue that's going on with 90% of Black people. Because we are overarchingly in a degenerated state of mind as a community. I don't know. That's just like, this is a controversial opinion that I have. We are overarchingly in a degenerated state as a Black community. And a lot of times we try to make believe like we're not. And we try to have these conversations because the fact that we're having this conversation right now is unique in the Black community. You don't walk into the everyday Black household and discuss any of the topics that we discussed today. That's not par for the course in the Black community. And we pretend like it is. And then we get upset by certain stereotypes. The reason I think that this is important is because how are we supposed to fix anything in the Black community if we pretend that 90% of Black people don't exist and their mindsets don't exist? You believe we're menticidal? Interesting. Interesting. That is very interesting. Menticidal. Does everybody know what that means? I mean, that's possible, but so basically, if you don't know what menticidal means, when Zara says we're menticidal, it means that our current mindset is something that was systematically cultivated. That's what it means. Menticidal means that the mindset that you have, the ideologies that you have, were systematically cultivated through a process. So it could be cultivated through the use of drugs and medications. It could be cultivated through the use of torture tactics. But it's the cultivation of, you know, a sect of behaviors in people that is meant to kind of break down and destroy what they really are. Even if I give you that, Zara, and I do think that it's fair to say, given our history, that there's an aspect of that for sure. I mean, it still is what it is, though, right? Because you kind of are just like Mr. Where's Mr. Zara? You and him are on the same page. Mr. is always like, but there's a reason, but there's a reason. And I agree, there's a reason. There is a reason why. There is. But nevertheless, it is what it is, right? There's a reason behind it. But despite the reason, that's the state of mind that most Black people are in. So I acknowledge that there's a reason behind it. I'm just saying that's the state of mind that most Black people are in. So that when we have these conversations, we're not speaking to the collective, nor are we speaking with the voice of the collective. And that has to be recognized, regardless of the reason, no matter the reason. And that's why, honestly, the gender war doesn't make sense to me. I'm just going to take it there. That's why the gender war doesn't make sense to me. Because the reality is the community is the way that it is, not because of men or women, but because the majority of Black people operate a particular way. And there is no deep thought or analyzation behind their behavior. They operate in a degenerate way. It could be because of the result of menticide. I agree with that. But regardless of if it is because of the result of menticide, it's still degenerate. And that's on all sides. Nobody is exempt from that. Yeah, my beautiful life. I'm of that opinion too. It's like after a certain point, I just cannot. I can't. I was listening. I'm not going to say who it was because Mr. actually knows this particular. He knows this particular person personally, but there is an author and scholar in the Black community who is still living, who is extremely popular. He's written several books, and he's a friend of Mister's. And I cannot, y'all, I cannot stand him. I can't stand him. I don't mean him as a person. I mean his ideologies. Like his ideologies are infuriating to me. Um, he's focused on Black men in particular, and he's always making excuses. So this is an example of something that he says, right? So if you have a Black man who has slept with 300 women, right? He slept with 300 women. He says, and he's abusing children, right? So he's promiscuous and he's engaging in an inappropriate sexual behavior with children. He says, nobody ever asks why. Nobody ever asks why. I guess I'm the sort of person, I don't care why. I'm for protecting children. And so I do think young Black boys and young Black girls equally need to be loved and protected. Children are children, regardless of gender. If you go to my unlisted playlist, I went on a whole rant about this. Children are children. They need to be protected. If they are a boy, it does not matter. If they are a girl, it does not matter. They are children. It is our job as men and women to protect and to love them. Whatever adult men and women are doing has nothing to do with kids. Kids are innocent and should be protected. So I don't have a problem with that. But I also am not going to sit here and ask why people are being degenerate. Because once you cross into degeneracy, you are accountable for your behavior. And I feel the same way for women. So, because women are the other example he uses. He uses, women being physically abusive toward their sons, right? Or emasculating their sons. Women are physically abusive. Not all women, obviously. I'm not saying all women. But to pretend that women aren't physically abusive, oh, I guess this brings us into another unpopular opinion I have. I don't think women should be raising children by themselves. I will go as far as to say, all right, this is going to be very triggering to a lot of single mothers, but just hear me out here. I don't think women are fit to raise children alone. I also don't think men are fit to raise children alone. You need a man and a woman to raise children. Number one, because women are emotional and men are sexual. I'm going to come for everybody right now. Women are emotional and men are sexual. All right? I'm not saying women don't like sex because there's always some women out there. Women like sex too. We know we all like sex, okay? And we all know that men have emotions. I'm not saying men don't have emotions. Men have emotions. So when I say women are emotional and men are sexual, that does not mean that men don't have feelings and women don't like sex. So I just want us to, put on our, adult brains as we're having this conversation and don't please nobody run off into left field with some silliness. Women who have to do the job of both man and woman will be more abusive, especially in impoverished situations, which is why in the Black community, we see a lot of physical and verbal abuse toward children from women. Now, there are no excuses for being physically or verbally abusive to a child. It's not okay. But I'm saying that understand that women are not fit to raise a child by themselves. Women are not built to do the jobs of men and women. Women get overwhelmed easily. Women become overburdened, and the majority of women are highly emotional creatures. They function off of emotion and feeling. And in their emotion and their feeling, they do inappropriate crap. It's just true. In the same way that I think that men are very sexual and they need the temperance of a woman to be appropriate. This is why homosexual men are so very degenerate. Men are so sexual that without a woman who's not pandering, without a woman to balance that out, they become complete degenerates. You only have to look at homosexual men whose only engagement with other men to see how far down into degeneracy a man will go without a woman to balance him out. Now, these are unpopular opinions, but nevertheless, I just don't think that you can leave kids alone with men. And I don't think you can definitely, like, the single mother household is not a vibe. It's simply not. This is why whole families are so important. This is why whole families are so very important. So very important. This brings me into the other thing where people are talking about how, and this is true, because a brother who will go nameless, when I tell y'all, like, low key, high key, Mr. knows everybody, you guys. So we won't say this brother's name. But there's a study that shows that a mother's emotional state and her behavior while she's pregnant can affect how the child's brain is wired while the child is still in utero. And there are a lot of men who have used this as an excuse to say, if a man is mentally screwed up, it's the mother's fault, because the mother and her mental state and her emotional state can rewire the brain of a child while the child is in utero. First of all, let me say this is true, right? The mental and emotional state of a woman while she is pregnant can alter the biochemical state of her fetus, of that unborn child. It can, and it does. So there is truth to that statement. But where I disagree is that this means that women therefore become accountable for how people turn out. Because if we as a community recognize that when a woman is pregnant, her emotional and her physical health can negatively affect her unborn child, then that would mean that our goal should be to treat pregnant women with gentleness and love and kindness to make sure that they're cared for. Because if we care for the children that they're carrying, if we care for the little baby boys and the little baby girls that are in a woman's tummy, then we are going to care, or not her tummy, but her uterus, right? Then we are going to care about her mental and physical health because it can alter the biochemistry of the child. So then, arguably, if people are stressing a pregnant woman out, then they are actually affecting that unborn child. So I disagree with the brother in that that's a way for men to absolve themselves of their own behavior because you're like this from the womb because your mom was screwed up. I think that's all the more reason for men to be more cautious about the women they get pregnant, and all the more reason for men and women to treat pregnant women gently and lovingly. And this is also an argument for women being stay-at-home wives and mothers, being in an environment where you are less stressed and very supported so that you can increase the outcomes for your unborn children. Yeah, get to know who you're knocking up. Absolutely. You know, because sex is definitely pleasurable. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that sex is not pleasurable. But the worst case scenario when you've had sex with somebody, be you a man or a woman, is to create a baby with that person. Because then things get really real. It turns from being something that you were just doing because you wanted an orgasm to something that now has a lifelong consequence. A lifelong in my video, Unpopular Opinions About Men, one thing that I did not say, and ladies, you guys have to let me know how you feel about this, is that, yeah, or just don't have kids. That's an option. One thing that I did not mention is I don't think men should ever deal with a woman they cannot control. Is that triggering for some people? If you can't control a woman, I don't mean beat her up. I don't mean talk trash and berate her. Like if you have to hit a woman or put her down in order to have any sort of influence over her, that's not what I'm talking about. I didn't say only deal with women you can abuse. I said if you can't control her, if when you speak, she does not acquiesce, that is not a good partner. But catch this to the ladies. Ladies, I don't think that you should be with men. I don't think that you should be with men who do not invoke obedience in you. Let me repeat that. I don't think men should be with women they cannot control, not abuse, but control. Without you hitting her, without you putting her down, she simply listens. And I don't think that women should be with men who do not invoke obedience in them. Like when he says something to you, if your inclination is not to listen, he's probably not going to work for you. It's probably not the one. You don't respect him enough. So he's not the one. Not because we have to listen to men, because society has made it that we don't have to listen to y'all. Okay. That's one thing a woman doesn't have to do. A woman does not have to listen to a man, not in this day and age. So then when a man does speak and you have a desire to listen to him, even though you don't have to and nobody's about to make you, then you know that that's a good choice in a man, right? You know that that's a good choice in a man. However, the same goes for men. When I hear men running around talking about what a woman didn't do and how his baby's mom's acting and what his ex-wife did, I'm like, well, you're the one who chose a woman who doesn't listen. When I hear a woman talking about how he's not ish and this and that, and he didn't, look, you're the one who chose a man that you could never, ever, ever, ever cooperate with. Oh, I'm getting a text. I'm sorry. Listen, y'all marinate on it. You marinate on it. Me personally, if a man, because I know how I am, and most women are like this. Let's just keep it real. I don't want to be underappreciated. See, men often say, this is what I hear men saying. Men say, women like a mean guy. They don't like the nice guy. Women like you to be a little bit mean to them, right? And this means that all the nice guys think that they can't be nice. It's not that women don't like a nice guy. We love a nice guy. We don't like a pushover, right? We like somebody that, because a lot of women, especially Black women, have strong personalities. We like somebody that he doesn't really care, because we're women. So if we're on some woman stuff, he'll just dismiss us. You know how men are. Men will dismiss you. You could be on any little kind of petty woman stuff and they won't care. It's irrelevant to them. But when you truly and honestly step out of pocket, he has zero tolerance for that. Like, okay, your regular woman stuff, you're being sassy. You know what I mean? You're doing your regular woman stuff. He doesn't care because he's not over emotional, because an over emotional man is unstable in all his ways. Okay. We're not dealing with men who are over emotional. So the average woman stuff he doesn't care about, you know? You're a little whining here, you're a little emotionality there. He doesn't care, right? He just thinks you must be about to have your period. He does not really care. You're just on some woman stuff. But when you truly push the boundaries, he has zero tolerance. His tolerance level is at zero. So he's a nice guy. He's loving, he's sweet, but then there's a limit to his niceness. There's a boundary you can no longer cross. That man is a woman that man is a woman's best friend. That man is a woman's future husband. That man is a woman's safe place. That is when she's going to listen. Men seem to think you have to be an actual jerk face. And a lot of women are just dysfunctional enough that they'll deal with a man that treats her like crap, right? But those are also the same women that are going to key your car, that are going to call your job, that are going to take you into child support court, that are going, you know what I'm saying? Those are also the women who technically you don't have control over. Because when you hurt their feelings, they're going to go for blood. When you're done toying with them, they're going to go for blood. They're going to do it. Like, it's a balance. But then we go back to my last unpopular opinion, which is that 90% of the Black community is degenerate. So you just have a lot of toxic men and women dealing with each other. And then you have the rest, the 10% of Black people who are out here trying to get married, out here trying to date, out here trying to build a functional community, but you keep encountering the 90% of Black people. And then we get together and we start having these conversations with each other, upset at the 90%. So the 10% come together and complain about how the 90% behave. What is that woman's name? There's a female YouTuber and I can't think of her name. She recently held a live that came up in my feed, and there were men and there were women talking about what they wanted. And the level of delusion showed that a lot of the people who have complaints, literally, we can complain about you too. You're not the catch you think you are, right? You got all these complaints, but honestly, you're not a catch. No, not Kendra G. I don't know who that is. It's not Kendra G. It's I think she might be like a mixed race woman. I don't know her name because I don't watch her channel, but she came up in my feed. But it was interesting to hear all of the people talking and like how they were very out of touch with themselves, you know? Also, they were constantly like misrepresenting themselves. Like whoever their persona was, they were getting their persona confused with like who they really are, which we know is an epidemic. It's an epidemic of people getting their personas confused with like who you really are. No, not Shez. No, not Shira. No, Shira does some other stuff. She does a hypergamy content, not Shira. I can't remember her name, but she's a mixed woman. And she was just basically letting men and women come up and say what they were looking for in the opposite sex. And then they were like telling a little bit about themselves. Um, and I was like, oh, the delusion of it all. It's very difficult. The delusion out here is real. People are delusional and lost and confused. Nevertheless, you guys, I'm going to end my live here. I wanted to come on. Tell me what you think about these popular unpopular opinions. What do you think about breastfeeding? Have women stepped so far out of womanhood that a formula crisis is something that is actually a thing when every woman that gives birth, except for maybe 1 to 3% of them, is perfectly capable of giving her baby milk? So why is a formula crisis stressing us out? Do you think the monkeypox thing is low key, high key racist? Do you think that women are suitable to raise children by themselves? Do you think that men are suitable? Or do you think it takes a pair? Do you think there's some credence to us operating in what is biologically reasonable for us? Do you think that 10% of the Black community are having conversations that don't apply to 90% of the Black community because 90% of the Black community is degenerate? Do you think that the most pro-Black thing you can do is be with another Black person? What of these unpopular opinions do you agree with or not? And will I ever hold another live where I let you guys come up here to give your unpopular opinions when you guys don't have any unpopular opinions? Are we officially an echo chamber? Answer that question. Because I don't want my channel to be an echo chamber. I do want there to be people here who dissent. So if you dissent, put such dissent in the comment section, because it's really important that we have conversations that are not just with like-minded people, but with people who have different opinions, so that we can all grow from them. Mama Kush, if you had unpopular opinions, you should have come up. You saw the thing scrolling. Don't have an unpopular opinion now. Anyway, so with that said, I will talk to you guys later. I'll let this one ride. I won't make this one members and Patreon only. This might ultimately end up on my unlisted playlist, but I'll let it ride out probably for the rest of the day, and then I'll push it over to the unlisted playlist. So you guys make sure that you keep the link to the unlisted playlist so that you can catch videos that I might air, but that don't fit in with the branding of my channel, which is what the main videos that you see when you come to my page are. Remember, when the videos disappear, they either go to the unlisted playlist or they go to members and Patreon only. For members and patrons, the mixtape is coming up at the end of this week. And for those who are not members and patrons, try to catch the mixtape. Put on your notifications, because I never announce when the mixtapes are going to air. I always air the mixtapes live, but then they go members and Patreon only. So if you've never caught a mixtape, or if you love the mixtapes, but you don't manage to catch all of them, just make sure that your notifications are on. You know that they'll always say Black Conservative Mixtape on them. So when they pop up, you'll know that we're live, and then you can catch the mixtapes for those of you who are not members or patrons, okay? And I will talk to you guys later.